Hello, Eastside Youth. I hope you guys are doing well today. If you haven't met, that's Bugaboo right there. He's our new friend who has been donated, and he hangs out here with me. So you might see him from time to time. I hope you guys are well. It's the middle of the week, midweek encouragement, and we're gonna get right into it real quick. I want to let you know, if you haven't seen on social media or an email, we are changing the tubing again. So we are planning on February 6th. It's still a Saturday, same time, same details, but we're moving it because it's really cold out where we're going tubing, but they have not gotten a new snowfall really yet. So we're pushing it about 2.5 weeks out. So that way it gives everybody time to plan and time for snow to fall. So pray for snow, guys. And we're looking forward to heading out there in the beginning of February. This is our midweek check-in. I'm going to jump right into it. We're in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 24. It says, "By faith, Moses, when he was grown up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God than to enjoy the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. He considered the reproach of Christ of greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt. By faith, he left Egypt, not being afraid of the anger of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. And by faith, he kept the Passover and sprinkled the blood so that the destroyer of the firstborn might not touch them." Last week we talked about Moses' parents. This week we're talking about Moses himself. And what it is Moses, he was Egyptian. He could have been raised Egyptian, but he counted being a part of God's people as more valuable than growing up Egyptian and being a part of an Egyptian household. And so he chose to be mistreated alongside the people of God. He chose a negative experience in standing with the people of God. And as a result, God chooses and uses Moses to bring the people out of Egypt in the Exodus. He refused to be, he could have been essentially like Pharaoh's grandkid, but he chooses not to. And in doing so, he considered it. Verse 26 says, "He considered the reproach of Christ greater than the wealth and treasures of Egypt." And it's this idea that Moses understood, or maybe he didn't understand fully, but he knew that God had promises for his people and that God was going to fulfill those promises. And many of those promises were a long ways out. And that's why it says that he chose the reproach of Christ. Moses did not know the name of Jesus. He didn't have the New Testament where Jesus walked around and did the miracles that we're learning about on Sunday night in the Gospels. He didn't have all that, but he did have faith in God, that God said, "I'm going to bless all of the nations of the earth through you, and I'm going to choose you as my people." And Moses understood that, and he had faith in God. And as a result, it caused him to side with God's people, even when it was not advantageous to him. He didn't really gain anything from that other than he was used by God, which is more important. It says, "By faith he left Egypt, not being afraid of the anger of the king." And we see that play out when, Pharaoh sends him out, and then Pharaoh changes his mind. Moses does not surrender to the people, to Pharaoh's people, when they're rolling up on him next to the Red Sea. He doesn't surrender. He understood that God wanted them to be free, and he had faith in God, and he continued to lead God's people out. And before they left Egypt, it says that he practiced the Passover, and he gave them this example of God through the spreading of blood. They spread the blood on their doorposts, and when the curse came through, everybody who had the blood on their doorposts was exempt. In other words, the blood paid the price for that home. And Moses set the example by faith, by instituting and keeping the Passover himself, and observing the actual remembrance and holiday of Passover with the people, wherein they don't eat leavened bread, and they do that observance. He holds that for them in faith. And so Moses goes on to lead the people out of Egypt, and we're going to look at the people and their coming out of Egypt next week. And it's going to be really interesting because when we looked at those books of the Bible last year, we said frequently that the people of Israel often did not exhibit the greatest degree of faith. And so we're going to look at that. But this week we're talking about Moses. Moses had faith in God, and it led him to choose to do what was right, even when it was difficult, to side with God's people, even though it didn't get him anything socially or in his society. But he understood that God had a plan for his people, and God had a plan that was coming later on. And so he chose to do that, and he led God's people out, and he instituted Passover so that way they had a way to remember their God. So I hope you guys are doing well again. We'll see you Sunday. It'll be regular youth group, but we might do something special as far as like a game and maybe have a treat since we've moved this tubing so many times. I'm sorry again for moving the tubing, but yeah, we're going to do our best to get down the hill this winter. So I love you guys. Take care. And if you need something, reach out to us. Bye, guys.